The Bridge Where Dogs Leap, The Mystery of Overtoun Bridge. There are places where the rules we understand seem to bend. In Dumbarton, Scotland, just northwest of Glasgow, there is a bridge. It was built in 1895, a beautiful piece of Victorian Gothic architecture with 3 elegant arches spanning a steep ravine. The Overtoun Burn flows 50 feet below through a wooded gorge thick with mist. It should be unremarkable. But since the 1950s, dogs have been jumping from this bridge to their deaths. Not occasionally, not rarely, hundreds of them, always from the same spot, always on clear, sunny days, always long-nosed breeds like Collies, Labradors, and Retrievers. The dogs climb onto the parapet wall and they jump. Some die instantly on the rocks below. Others survive with broken legs, broken jaws, shattered spines. And in some documented cases, dogs that survived the fall have climbed back up the ravine and jumped again. This is the story of Overtoun Bridge, known locally as the Dog Suicide Bridge. This is about the families who have watched their beloved pets suddenly bolt and leap into empty air. This is about the investigators who have tried to find rational explanations and the locals who believe something far stranger is at work. And this is about the uncomfortable truth that after more than 70 years, no one can say with certainty why it keeps happening. The bridge itself is part of the Overtoun Estate, built by the White family in the late 19th century. The manor house sits on a hill overlooking the River Clyde. The bridge was designed by landscape architect Henry Edward Milner and completed in June 1895 with stone parapets 18 inches thick, constructed from rough-faced ashlar. For decades after its construction, nothing unusual happened. Then, sometime in the 1950s, that changed. The first reports were sparse, local whispers. A dog had jumped from the bridge, then another, then more. By the 1960s, the pattern was undeniable. Dogs were leaping from Overtoun Bridge, and they were doing it with disturbing consistency, always between the final 2 parapets on the right-hand side of the bridge, always when the weather was clear and dry, and almost always long-nosed breeds, dogs with particularly keen senses of smell. The numbers are difficult to verify precisely because formal records were not kept in the early years. Local estimates suggest at least 300 dogs have jumped since the 1950s, with some accounts placing the number as high as 600. What is documented with certainty is that at least 50 dogs have died from the fall. The Scottish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals conducted a study covering 1994 to 2006 and confirmed at least 50 fatal cases during just that 12-year period. In 2005 alone, during a 6-month span, 5 dogs jumped to their deaths. The owners describe similar experiences. The dog is walking normally, exploring, sniffing, behaving as dogs do. Then something changes. The dog becomes still, focused, staring at something the owner cannot see, or the dog becomes suddenly agitated, frenzied, and then, without warning, the dog bolts. It leaps onto the parapet wall and jumps into the ravine below. In 2004, Kenneth Meikle was walking with his family and their golden retriever when the dog suddenly ran to the edge and jumped. The dog survived but was deeply traumatized. In 2014, Alice Trevorrow was walking her Springer Spaniel named Cassie. She had been told Overtoun was a beautiful place for walks, but had never heard about the bridge's reputation. Cassie stared at something above the bridge, then jumped. She spent 6 days in an animal hospital. Trevorrow later described Cassie as having seen something that made her jump, something that pulled her toward the edge. In 2016, Lottie McKinnon was walking her border collie Bonnie when they stepped onto the bridge. Bonnie froze, became entranced, then ran to the center and jumped 50 feet below. Bonnie survived with injuries, but McKinnon described her dog as having been possessed by something, driven by a force she could not understand. Donna Cooper's collie, Ben, was not so lucky. In 2006, Ben jumped from the bridge in front of Cooper's 2-year-old son. His paw was broken, his jaw was broken, his back was broken and badly twisted. The veterinarian decided it was not worth putting him through the pain. They had to let him go. The pattern is consistent enough that it cannot be dismissed as coincidence, but strange enough that no single explanation has ever felt complete. Naturally, theories emerged. The supernatural ones came first. Locals spoke of the White Lady of Overtoun, the ghost of Lady Overtoun, wife of Baron John White. She outlived her husband by 31 years and died in 1931. According to legend, her spirit remained on the estate, a pale figure seen drifting through Overtoun House or walking the bridge on misty days. Some believed she was drawing dogs to their deaths, her grief twisted into something malevolent. Others claimed the bridge was built on a thin place, a concept from Celtic mythology, where the boundary between our world and the spirit realm is fragile, where ghosts and other entities can cross over and influence the living. Some pointed to the tragic event of October 1994, when a 32-year-old father threw his 2-week-old son, Eoghan, from the bridge, killing him. The father believed his child was the Antichrist. He tried to jump himself, but was pulled back by his wife. He was declared mentally ill and committed to a psychiatric institution. The baby died the next day. After this horrific incident, locals noted that dogs almost always jumped from the same spot where the baby had been thrown. The bridge, they said, had been cursed by that violence, and dogs, with their sensitivity to unseen forces, were reacting to something humans could not perceive. Paranormal investigators visited. Some reported feeling an oppressive dread on the bridge. Others felt nothing unusual. The theories multiplied, but provided no concrete answers. In 2005, the Scottish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals commissioned a scientific investigation. They brought in canine psychologist David Sands and animal habitat expert David Sexton to examine the bridge from a dog's perspective. What they found was less supernatural, but equally unsettling in its own way. Sands discovered that the wooded gorge beneath the bridge was a home to a significant population of American mink. Mink had been introduced to Scotland in the 1920s, and by the 1950s, precisely when the dog jumps began, they had established large populations in areas like Overtoun Burn. Mink are known for their intensely pungent musk secreted from their anal glands. To humans, the scent is barely noticeable. To dogs, particularly long-nosed breeds with heightened senses of smell, the smell is overwhelming, irresistible.
Sands conducted an experiment. He exposed 10 dogs to canisters filled with the scents of mice, squirrels, and mink. 7 of the 10 dogs went straight for the mink scent, many of them quite dramatically. 1 went for the squirrel scent. 2 were more interested in playing with their handlers, but the majority were drawn powerfully to the mink. Sands theorized that dogs crossing the bridge were catching this strong scent rising from the gorge below. But here is where the bridge's design becomes crucial. The stone parapets are tall, taller than most dogs. When a dog approaches the edge, it cannot see over the wall. It cannot see the 50-foot drop. From a dog's low vantage point, the lush foliage and the angle of the bridge create an optical illusion. The drop appears to be level ground, a continuation of the terrain. The dog, overwhelmed by the scent of mink and unable to see the danger, leaps, expecting to land on solid earth. Instead, it plunges into empty air. Sands concluded, "I think it is highly likely in all the cases here at Overtoun Bridge that it was curiosity that killed the dog." The solid granite walls obscure the dog's vision and block out sound. As a result, the one sense not obscured, that of smell, goes into overdrive. David Sexton investigated acoustic factors. He wondered if ultrasonic sounds from the nearby Fast Lane nuclear base might be confusing the dogs, but acoustic testing found nothing abnormal. Sound levels on the bridge were entirely ordinary. The mink scent theory is the most widely accepted scientific explanation. It accounts for the timing, the 1950s start of the phenomenon matching the rise of mink populations. It explains why the jumps happen on clear, dry days when the scent would be strongest. It explains why long-nosed breeds, with their superior sense of smell, are most affected. But it does not explain everything. Why do dogs only jump from Overtoun Bridge? There are other bridges in Scotland with mink populations below them. Why does this specific bridge claim so many lives? Why do the dogs always jump from the same spot, between the final two parapets on the right side? Why do some dogs, after surviving the fall, attempt to jump again? A scent alone should not compel a well-trained animal to leap without hesitation, especially one that has just experienced the trauma of a 50-foot fall. Some locals dispute the mink theory entirely. John Joyce, a local hunter, insists there are no mink in the burn below Overtoun Bridge, and owners of dogs who jumped described behavior that seemed less like curiosity and more like possession. Dogs staring at something invisible, dogs becoming frenzied, driven by something they had to reach, dogs that froze, transfixed, before bolting toward the edge. The owners of Overtoun House, who lived there for 17 years, witnessed multiple dogs becoming agitated and falling from the bridge. They believed the scent explanation was plausible, but also noted that the estate possessed some sort of spiritual quality, something they could not quite articulate but felt nonetheless. Warning signs have been erected on the bridge. They urge dog owners to keep their pets on leashes while crossing. The estate is still open to the public, still a popular walking spot, but the bridge carries its reputation like a shadow. So what is the truth? Is it biology, a simple case of powerful scent and unfortunate architecture? Or is there something else, something that science cannot measure, lurking in that ravine? The Scottish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals investigated and found no definitive answers. Their findings were inconclusive. Perhaps the truth is that both explanations hold pieces of the puzzle. Perhaps the mink scent draws the dogs to the edge, but the bridge itself, with its history of tragedy and its location in this misty, isolated place, amplifies that pull into something stronger. Perhaps there are thin places in the world, spots where the ordinary and the inexplicable meet, and Overtoun Bridge is one of them. What we know for certain is this: the phenomenon is real. The deaths are documented. The pattern has persisted for more than 70 years, and despite investigations, experiments, and countless theories, no one can say with absolute certainty why it happens. The bridge still stands, elegant and Gothic, spanning the ravine where the Overtoun burn flows through the mist, and dogs still walk across it, their owners holding the leashes a little tighter, wondering what their pets might sense that they cannot. If you found this exploration of one of Scotland's strangest mysteries compelling, I would appreciate it if you would take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. There are more unexplained phenomena waiting to be examined, more places where the world does not quite make sense, and I will be here to guide you through them with respect for the truth and acknowledgement of what remains unknown.